I'm Ben Meiselas from the MeidasTouch Network. More blockbuster testimony from some of the newly released deposition transcripts by the January 6th committee. I think one of the things that special counsel Jack Smith is going to be laser focused on is the connection between the terrorist groups like the Oath Keepers and the Proud Boys and Donald Trump and Trump's inner circle, like Mark Meadows and others. And specifically, we learned from the January 6th committee that Mark Meadows, on behalf of Donald Trump, had reached out to individuals on January 5th in the Willard Hotel to coordinate plans relating to the January 6th insurrection. The people who were in the Willard Hotel included people like Mike Flynn and Roger Stone, among others. And Roger Stone, of course, has these direct relationships with the Proud Boys as well as the Oath Keepers. In fact, there are photographs of Roger Stone with Oath Keepers at the Willard Hotel. And Roger Stone was also apparently using Proud Boys as personal security and would brag about his connections and his relationships with the Proud Boys. And clearly, I think it would be almost beyond any doubt that Roger Stone knew specifically what the Proud Boys and what the Oath Keepers, both who have been charged with seditious conspiracy, were going to do on January 6th during the insurrection. Roger Stone, when he was deposed by the January 6th committee, unlike Cassidy Hutchinson, invoked the 5th. And when he was asked the most basic of questions, like, do you believe that fascist insurrections are part of our democracy, Roger Stone's response would be, I most respectfully have to decline answering that question by invoking my Fifth Amendment rights. That's what Roger Stone said to the January 6th committee. So formulating these links between Donald Trump, the Trump White House, Mark Meadows, and the Willard Hotel, where Mike Flynn, by the way, who also pled the 5th, Roger Stone, and other of the insurrectionists at the Willard Hotel, that connection is very, very, very important. But because Mark Meadows stopped cooperating with the January 6th committee and sued the January 6th committee, because Mike Flynn and Roger Stone invoked the 5th and stonewalled the committee, we need to get more information there. But Cassidy Hutchinson's deposition testimony sheds more light on Mark Meadows' involvement in communicating with individuals at the Willard Hotel. By the way, a 5-star hotel right by the White House, a beautiful hotel, historic hotel that was used as kind of ground zero for insurrection plotting and planning amongst the most extremists of the MAGA bunch. So in Cassidy Hutchinson's May 17, 2022 testimony before the January 6th committee, she talks about how on the evening of January 5th, Mark Meadows canceled dinner with his wife so he could work with the people at the Willard Hotel. This is what Hutchinson says in her deposition testimony, starting on page 23. He, Mark Meadows, talked to his wife actually on the phone. They had dinner plans that night in Old Town. He called to cancel them. He wasn't sure what time he was going to be home. I don't remember other off the top of my head. I don't remember the conversations that he had that we haven't already discussed. But again, we had a pretty thin number of staffers there that day. So the names that I have continue to say, we're frequently in and out of our office, and that was kind of the core group of staffers that day. He talked to Don Jr. at one point that afternoon. Don Jr. came back to the White House, and Mr. Trump, Don Jr., and Miss Guilfoyle popped into Mr. Meadows' office before they had left, but I don't know what their conversation was. Do you know if he talked to General Flynn, asks Liz Cheney, Congresswoman Liz Cheney? Hutchinson's response, I don't know if he spoke with General Flynn that day. He spoke with General Flynn on the 5th. Cheney, by phone or in person? Hutchinson, by phone. Cheney, and tell us about that conversation. Hutchinson, he had Mr. Meadows. I don't want to say he had planned to, but he had thought about going to the Willard Hotel the night of January 5th. And I remember talking to our Secret Service detail saying logistically it would be difficult. And if he had asked my opinion, which he didn't, but if he'd asked my opinion, which I had expressed to our Secret Service detail, was that I thought that he should not go there. If there was anything he needed to accomplish, he could do it by phone. And I have forgotten, and I'm not sure why he spoke with them by phone on the 5th. I don't know if he just wanted to go home and knew from this conversation, or if something else happened in between. But he had spoken to a few people who were at the Willard Hotel, and I don't know all that much about the spirit of what was happening there. I don't know the personalities that were there that night. I know a handful of them. I know he spoke with Mr. Flynn, though, that night, because he had been communicating with him about going to the Willard Hotel. And I believe I will leave it there because I'm not confident enough about other conversations they may have had. Liz Cheney gets right to the heart of it. Well, did he also talk to Roger Stone? Hutchinson. That was one that I wasn't confident of. I don't know if he spoke to Mr. Stone on the 5th. He had spoken to Mr. Stone a couple of times in December, January, late December, early January, or the mid-December, in the early January timeframe. I don't know about what, though. I just remember wanting to connect to Mr. Stone. Cheney. And so did he ask you to connect him to Mr. Stone? Hutchinson. I believe he may have asked once, and I was like, I don't have Mr. Stone's. I remember saying to him, I don't have Mr. Stone's contact information, and I don't really want to have Mr. Stone's contact information. And he said, all right, that's fine, and got it a separate way. I don't know if Miss Thurston connected them or if he reached out to one of his friends or colleagues either at the White House or on the Hill to get his phone number. Cheney. You think he may have called someone on the Hill for it? Hutchinson. Potentially. I don't think he had it himself. I don't know who he would have reached out to. I mean, in my immediate memory, he knows that Mr. Stone and Mr. Gates are close, and Mr. Gates would frequently talk about bringing Mr. Stone to meet with Mr. Meadows, and it would always get pushed or delayed. And I started to think it was because Mr. Meadows didn't want to facilitate the meeting in his office, so he potentially could have reached out to Mr. Gates to receive Mr. Stone's contact information, or Miss Thurston could have provided it to someone. I'm not sure where he got it after that. And why was he thinking about going to the Willard on the 5th? Hutchinson. I'm not sure. Cheney. And how do you know he was thinking about doing that? Answer. Because he told me. Would you be okay? I'm trying to decide if we go to the Willard Hotel. I said, what do we need to go to the Willard Hotel for? There are some people there that I think I have to meet with. Can you find out when they are meeting? That's what Meadows said to Hutchinson. And I just kind of let it go at that point. I told Miss Thurston, put it on the schedule for him. I told Miss Thurston, keep an eye out for this. He just told me this in our office and he thanked me. And whatever action, I don't believe she took any action on it. I think it probably just died naturally. Cheney. And did he say why he needed to meet those people at the Willard Hotel? Hutchinson. He didn't. And why didn't you want him to go? Hutchinson. 2 reasons. One, I wanted to go home. The second reason, I felt that there was enough going on. I had heard enough about, to be frank. I didn't until after the fact. I didn't know that this group was assembling at the Willard Hotel. There were people there. I didn't know a lot about it until a couple of weeks afterwards, but I knew the people that were there that he wanted to meet with, and I just kind of thought it would be better for him to keep some distance and try to keep a clear head for the next day and not entertain some of the ideas that I knew that some of the people there had been discussing previously. Not specific to that night, but then Cheney cuts through it and says, and what were some of those ideas? And Hutchinson responds, I kind of knew the names of the people there and attributed those individuals to the ones propagating the election fraud claims, Dominion voting machines, Italian satellites, and that set off my radar. And I just personally wanted to keep, which may be selfish, but I personally wanted to keep a little bit more of a distance from that, those ideals between Mr. Meadows and the president, especially the day before January 6th. But I didn't know much about the meeting that night. I just knew there were people there. I figured it was more like a place to congregate because there was also, I don't know, the Freedom Rally or something else going on outside. So what we see here is Mark Meadows trying to desperately find out how he could get to the Willard Hotel so he can meet with people like Roger Stone and Mike Flynn the day before the insurrection. Mike Flynn and Roger Stone, two of the biggest proponents of overthrowing our democracy. Mike Flynn perpetrating a plan to declare martial law and suspend the United States Constitution. Roger Stone with his deep-seated links with the Oath Keepers and the Proud Boys. I want you to also keep in mind very specifically the leader of the Proud Boys, Enrique Tarrio, who was very close and coordinating things with Roger Stone. Enrique Tarrio got a visit to the White House on December 20th of 2020. There is a photograph that Enrique Tarrio took in front of the White House and on the balcony area by the residents of the White House, an area that is always blocked to private tours, even the most VIP of VIP tours to the White House do not get access to where Enrique Tarrio took these photographs. I'll put these photographs up from December 20th of 2020. That Enrique Tarrio, the leader of a terrorist organization at the White House. So here's the thing that we need to put together. I'm going to play for you right now some of the statements made by Congresswoman Lofgren at the January 6th committee hearing, where she talks about these links between Roger Stone and the terrorist organizations that have been charged with seditious conspiracy, and the fact that Meadows was making these phone calls. Meadows was getting involved in the activity at the Willard Hotel on behalf of Donald Trump. Now you got Meadows trying to obstruct. You've got Roger Stone trying to obstruct. You've got Mike Flynn trying to obstruct. And so it doesn't take the logical leap, folks, to realize what is going on here, especially when you layer over it the deposition testimony I just read from you from Cassidy Hutchinson, Mark Meadows' top staffer, top deputy, who sat right by the Oval Office. So here, let me play now the video of Zoe Lofgren, Congresswoman Lofgren, from the January 6th committee hearing where she talks about these connections. Play the clip.
We know that Roger Stone was at the Willard Hotel on January 5th and 6th, and we know from other witness testimony that President Trump asked his chief of staff, Mark Meadows, to speak with Roger Stone and General Michael Flynn that night. In addition to his connection to President Trump, Roger Stone maintained extensive direct connections to two groups responsible for violently attacking the Capitol, the Oath Keepers and the Proud Boys. Individuals from both of these organizations have been charged with the crime of seditious conspiracy.
So now we bring all of these concepts together. Terrorist organizations getting access to the White House on December 20th of 2020. Meetings at the Willard Hotel between individuals invoking their Fifth Amendment rights against self-incrimination. Individuals with links to these organizations, the Proud Boys and the Oath Keepers. Oath Keepers leaders, their two top leaders, have been convicted of seditious conspiracy. The Proud Boy seditious conspiracy trial will start in earnest with testimony in early January. The jury is being selected there in federal court. So this is where Special Counsel Jack Smith is going to be laser focused on. And one of the tools in Special Counsel Jack Smith's toolkit is his subpoena power, is his charging power. The January 6th committee is not a criminal indicting body. They are an investigative body that could make the referral. But I almost have no doubt, I don't know this for a fact, but I would have almost no doubt that Mark Meadows' lawyers are in communication with Special Counsel Jack Smith's team, who's saying, we need your cooperation or we're going to charge you, Mark Meadows. You are in the center of all of this. Your text messages show that you were at the center of not just the coup plot, but also the stolen documents, the top secret and other classified records and other government records that Donald Trump stole and brought to Mar-a-Lago. This was always why I believe the Department of Justice did not criminally try Mark Meadows when there was an obstruction of justice referral by the House of Representatives when they voted to hold Mark Meadows in contempt for not cooperating with the January 6th committee, whereas the Department of Justice did indeed prosecute Steve Bannon. They got a conviction on 2 obstruction counts. Steve Bannon was sentenced to approximately 4 months, and Bannon is appealing that. But people were saying, well, why didn't Merrick Garland charge? Why didn't he charge Mark Meadows there? And I always thought the reason was, and a lot of the developments today seem to be, charging him with these 2 misdemeanor counts and getting bogged down in that, when the focus here is on these bigger felony issues, when the issue is on the seditious conspiracy count. That's the prize. That is what needs to be focused on to protect law and order, to protect our democracy. That is what I think is going on now. So we will keep you posted, but wanted to share this blockbuster testimony, newly revealed testimony, at least from the deposition transcripts that were just released. We'll keep you posted as we learn more here on the MeidasTouch Network. I'm Ben Meiselas. Make sure to hit the subscribe button. We are on our way to 1 million subscribers thanks to your incredible support. And in addition, check us out at patreon.com/MeidasTouch. patreon.com/MeidasTouch. We have lots of exclusive content you could only get at patreon.com/MeidasTouch, but most importantly, help grow this independent media platform. Until next time, I'm Ben Meiselas from the MeidasTouch Network. Hit the subscribe.
MeidasTouch is unapologetically pro-democracy. And look, we know you are too. So please make sure you check out our best-selling shirt and our best-selling gear, the unapologetically pro-democracy gear. And hey, while you're at it, make sure you check out my favorite shirt and one of our most famous designs. It wasn't rigged, you're just a loser. At store.MeidasTouch.com. That's store.MeidasTouch.com.